Hey guys, MetalJesus here, and today I am back with a video talking about some Xbox Game Pass games that you might have overlooked. Now specifically I'm talking about 6 games that are included on the console side, although I think a lot of these are also available on PC, and I believe for the most part these are all available both on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series. And you guys know I recently talked about how I got an Xbox Series X as well as Game Pass for the first time. So depending on how long you've had Game Pass, well, you may have already known about these games, but it's a nice mix of old and new and, well, pretty much every generation of Xbox. So let's jump right in. So the first game I want to talk about is called Lonely Mountain Downhill, and the reason why I want to talk about this first is because when I did that Xbox Series X video, a lot of people reached out to me and was like, what is that mountain biking game that you showed in that video? And at the time I didn't really talk about it because obviously I was talking about other stuff, but here is where I want to talk about this really cool game. And so the premise of this game is very simple. So you're on a mountain bike and you're just basically going down various paths on these mountains trying to avoid rocks, crevices, and other pitfalls, and you're trying to just do it as quickly as possible. And as you can see by this footage, it's got a very distinctive graphical style that works really perfectly in this game. Also, I have to say though that the best parts are the controls. So you use the directional thumb pad to kind of guide your front tire right there, all while trying to use the other buttons to speed up and also brake. And there's some real nuance to this game. It feels and controls great. It really feels like you're on a mountain bike going down these mountains. Sometimes you're in control because maybe it's a gentle kind of grade, and other times you are barely trying to control your bike as it's a very steep incline and you're just trying not to crash. And speaking of crashing, you're probably going to do that a lot. At least I certainly was. But thankfully, there are a lot of checkpoints, and it's always giving you kind of your best time on that. And that's the thing about this game is that while you can play it casually, there are a bunch of kind of events or achievements that it wants you to do, trying to beat your time. And what's interesting about this game, and you may have noticed it in this footage, that, you know, sometimes you can go off the beaten path, again, which is really neat. If you want to see something really cool, watch some speed run videos of this game because it'll kind of blow your mind what people do in this game to get down the mountain faster. Another cool thing about this game is that there is no music in it because you are out in nature, and so this just really has this kind of serene sounds of nature. You've got wind and water, rivers and waterfalls. You've got animal sounds and, you know, the sound of your tires kind of running over the different terrain. It's a very cool take on this. And, you know, it can be very stressful or it can be pretty relaxing. And so, yeah, as you can tell, this is a fantastic game. It's very addictive, especially when you're trying to do those challenges and just get a little bit better time. So definitely check it out. Next one is a game called Titanfall II, and I kind of went back and forth as to whether I was going to talk about this because while this game was considered to not be the hit it was designed to be when it was originally released, I kind of feel like people are starting to go back and realize just how brilliant of a first-person shooter this game actually is. And again, the great thing is it's now included in Game Pass. So the first thing to know about this game is that it is made by Respawn Entertainment, which may sound kind of familiar because they also made Apex Legend, as well as the most recent Star Wars game, Fallen Order. And for me, my love of this game really comes from the excellent single-player campaign. Now, it's only about 6 hours long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome, but trust me, it is absolutely exhilarating. It's full of great levels, it's got really satisfying gunplay, it's got great characters and story. It's just one of the best experiences of that generation. And what's fun about this game is that you spend pretty much equal time shooting on foot, but then you can also climb into these Titans, which are these big mechs that you then stomp around and shoot your enemies. It's cool because it breaks up the game, but it also changes the scale. So when you're in these massive mechs, it feels like you're in a mech. It feels like you're really powerful. Also, your weapons and your loadout changes as well. Another thing I really enjoy about this game is the wall running that you do when you are outside the mech. And you see me doing it here. And so basically you just jump on to a flat surface and then you kind of stick to it as you're moving forward. Then you can hop over to another one and kind of keep it going. And again, what this game does really well is making that not frustrating. It's actually really fun once you get the hang of it. You're going to be doing it all the time. It definitely mixes it up compared to other first-person shooters. I really enjoy it. And I know this has an online multiplayer component as well, but I never really got into that because I was always focused on the single player campaign. Actually, I beat this game on the PlayStation 4 and now replaying it on the Xbox Series X. Man, it's such a great game. I just got lost in it again. This definitely feels like a AAA title, and if you haven't played it yet, it's highly recommended.
Advised to discard any weapons. Surrender immediately.
Next up is a game I kind of downloaded on a whim. That's kind of one of the fun aspects of Game Pass. You just sort of try stuff. That, of course, is Gato Roboto. This is a Metroidvania game that feels very similar to Metroid. We're talking, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, that sort of stuff. Great 2D platforming games. Now, the premise of this game kind of surprised me a little bit because you start off the game actually as an astronaut in a spaceship that crash lands on a planet. So I thought you're going to be playing as the astronaut, but actually the astronaut's trapped in the spaceship and it's actually the pet cat that needs to leave and try to free the astronaut. And the way you do that, well, the cat is able to get into a robot suit that is upgradable. Again, just like Metroid, where you have this rocket arm, you have these different spin attacks, you have all these different things that you can do that will then unlock other sections of the level. And I'm definitely digging the distinctive black and white art style. Obviously, it reminds me of classic Game Boy games. And at the end of the day, the platforming and the progression feels very good, very polished. This is a really cool game, so definitely check it out. Here's a game I believe I talked about maybe about a year ago in a pickups video, but it's Indivisible. This is an action RPG / platforming game that plays very similar to Valkyrie Profile, if you've ever played one of those. And the entire game takes place in these 2D levels, which look just stunning. I mean, I love these hand-drawn graphics here. Just beautiful, right? Plus, it's also really fun to explore. And the combat I wouldn't describe as real time. It's almost like active time where each character has to wait for their turn to attack, but you don't have to do it at that moment. You can actually wait for other characters to also be able to attack and then do combos. And notice how underneath each character there are buttons mapped to a specific party member, and then basically you can time your attacks or your blocks to the incoming enemy attacks. And initially you might think, oh, I'm just gonna button mash my way through this, and in the early parts of the game you can definitely do that, but quickly you learn that there's a lot more skill to be had mixing and matching your attacks and your blocks to succeed. Plus, this game has really funny and memorable characters with full voice acting, tons of personality. It's a really cool game. Next up, we're gonna go all the way back to the original Xbox for a first-person shooter called Black. Now, I noticed this is part of EA Play, which, if you remember, EA, I guess, kind of joined or combined forces with Game Pass to include a bunch of their games in their library, for Game Pass subscribers, and that's where I found this. Now, I originally played this when it first came out because I heard it was made by Criterion, one of my all-time favorite developers. They, of course, made the awesome Burnout games. And what was cool about this game at the time is that Criterion was trying to take first-person shooters to the next level by doing something, I believe they called it kind of like gun porn, sort of, really focusing on shooting guns, blowing stuff up, and this game definitely delivers on that. Now, it may not be as groundbreaking today. Obviously, The AI is not as smart as something you would see, generations later in the most current Call of Duty game. And obviously the graphics aren't as good, but I do think this is a lot of fun, especially if you are kind of nostalgic for those older first-person shooters. And, I was playing this, capturing the footage here, and I was just having so much fun. It's a great game. Now, I'll admit that it's kind of annoying that the screen blurs every time you reload your weapon, but you do get used to it. But I do like how the game doesn't overstay its welcome. You can complete the single-player campaign in about 5 to 6 hours, again, which is perfect if you're looking for something kind of old school, maybe want to play it over a weekend. Definitely check out Black. And then here's a game called The Tourist, which I think a lot of people played actually on the Switch, and I was surprised to see it included in Game Pass on the Xbox. And so I immediately had to download it because I hadn't tried it before. Now, The Tourist is an action-adventure / puzzle game. It's the same developer who also made Fast RMX on the Nintendo Switch. Now, in many ways, this is a very different game from Fast RMX, obviously, because that was a extremely fast racing game. But again, here you have a game that's completely different in style and also the way it just looks. And I'm definitely digging these kind of blocky graphics that they decided to go with here. To me, it's a mix of maybe Minecraft and also a little bit of Link's Awakening. Now, the premise of this game is you are a tourist that arrive on this tropical island only to discover from the locals there that there's these huge monuments, and inside each of them are a bunch of secrets to unlock and explore. And so in many ways, it feels like a traditional puzzle game where you're trying to just solve environmental puzzles, maybe trying to find something that will unlock the next thing that you need, open doors, stuff like that. And for the most part, the puzzles aren't very difficult at all. As a matter of fact, I would probably go so far as to say they're mostly easy. So that might be a little bit of a turnoff for some people. However, there is some platforming in this game, and that's where I think kind of most of the criticism, at least from me, comes from here, because the platforming can be a little bit frustrating. It can be kind of hard to tell exactly, the distance that you're trying to jump to specifically. You die a lot in this game. Thankfully, there's a bunch of different checkpoints, so it's not too frustrating, but it can be sometimes. And what's interesting and a little bit surprising about this game is that it looks like it'd be kind of fun and sunny, and, for the most part it is. It's fairly lighthearted, but then there are some really dark and weird sci-fi aspects to this game that you might not even see coming. So that's kind of the fun part about this game, is that there's a lot to explore and discover in this. So it's definitely a very cool surprise. All right, guys, well, it's a quick look at some Xbox Game Pass games that you might have overlooked. And as you guys know, there are, I think there's over 100 games in there to just download and check out. So as you know, I am new to Game Pass, and so if there are some games in there that you think I should be checking out, please let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.